Your performance review was already decided before you walked in. You sat down for the conversation. You opened your self-assessment. You listed your wins. Your manager nodded carefully. Your rating came back lower than you expected, and you assumed something in the conversation went wrong. You replayed it for days. You wondered which sentence you should have said differently. You wondered which achievement you should have led with first. You wondered which question you answered too quickly. You wondered nothing of value. The conversation was not where your rating was decided. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the meeting that took place 2 to 4 weeks before you walked in, the meeting you were never invited to, the meeting where your number was assigned by managers who barely know your work. And once you see how that meeting runs, you will never read another performance review email the same way again. The meeting is called calibration. Every mid-sized and large organization runs one. Some call it talent review, some call it performance committee, some call it the round table. The name does not matter. The structure is identical. Your manager walks into a room with 8 to 15 other managers. Each one arrives with a list of their direct reports and a proposed rating for each one. The room has a fixed distribution. A certain percentage of employees must land in the top bucket, a certain percentage must land in the middle, a certain percentage must land in the bottom. The numbers are fixed before any name is read aloud. Your manager's job in that room is not to describe your performance. Your manager's job is to negotiate where you sit relative to everyone else's direct reports. Your work is one variable. The political weight of your manager is another. The quota is another. The story your manager can tell about you in 90 seconds is another. You are not in the room. Your work is not in the room. A summary of your work, filtered through your manager, told in 2 short sentences, is in the room. By the time the calibration meeting ends, the ratings are locked. Your performance review is the conversation where your manager delivers the rating that was decided in calibration. The self-assessment you spent 3 hours writing was read after the number was assigned, not before. Your achievements were used to support the rating. They were not used to determine it. Here is the part nobody warns you about. The bonus pool was sized before the calibration meeting began. The promotion slots were allocated before the calibration meeting began. The development feedback in your review was written to retroactively justify the rating that came out of that room, not the other way around. This is not a failure of communication. This is the design. And once you see the design, you start to hear what your manager has been telling you for years. When your manager tells you, "We wanted to give you more, but the budget did not allow it," your manager is telling you something true. The budget did not allow it. The budget was finalized before your name was discussed. When your manager tells you, "You need to work on your visibility," your manager is telling you something true. You need to work on your visibility. Your visibility is what your manager had to argue with inside the calibration room, and there was not enough of it to win. When your manager tells you, "Next year, if you keep this trajectory, we can revisit," your manager is telling you something true. The rating you got this year was already calibrated against next year's budget. The promise is real. The conversation that supports it has already happened in a different room. The phrases you have been hearing for years are not vague. They are accurate descriptions of a process you have never been allowed to see. You did everything right. You hit your targets. You took on the project nobody wanted. You stayed late when the deadline slipped. You trained the new hire your manager forgot to onboard. You made your manager look composed in front of their own boss. None of that was the variable. The variable was whether your manager walked into the calibration room willing to spend political capital to protect your number. The variable was whether your manager had a stronger case for one of your peers and traded yours for theirs. The variable was whether your team's leader had any top bucket slots left after the previous calibration cycle's commitments. You were rated against quota constraints you were never told about in a conversation you were not allowed to attend by people whose only information about you came from a manager who had 10 other reports to defend in the same hour. This is not a failure of your performance. This is the architecture of the system. Here is what actually governs your rating. The narrative your manager tells about you in calibration is your rating, not your work, the narrative. A manager who can describe your impact in 2 memorable sentences will protect your number every time. A manager who reaches for your self-assessment because they cannot summarize your year on their own has lost the argument before they finish their first sentence. The advocacy of your manager matters more than the recognition of your peers. Your peers do not sit in calibration. Your manager does. A peer who tells you your work is excellent is telling you something true and operationally meaningless.
A strong manager protects their people in calibration. A weak manager trades them. If your manager is new or politically isolated or already on a downward trajectory within the organization, your rating will reflect their position more than your performance. This is uncomfortable to hear. It is also the most reliable predictor of your annual review outcome that exists. The team you're on has a quota the team next door does not have. Two employees doing identical work in adjacent teams can receive different ratings because their teams were calibrated against different distributions. The number of top ratings available in your team this year was decided before you finished onboarding. When you read your performance review email, you are reading the output of a process that began long before the email was written. The conversation in the room with your manager was the delivery mechanism. The mechanism worked exactly as designed. The decision was already made. The next time you're preparing for your annual review, you will know what to look for. You will know that the question is not what you say in the conversation. The question is what your manager said in the room 2 weeks earlier, and whether you have given them enough material to win the argument they were always going to have without you. That's corporate GPS, the map they never handed you.